Hey everyone, Cynics here, and I'm going to show you guys some quick tips for drawing ears. In case you don't know, this is an ear. These are also ears. This is not an ear. And this, well, this is technically an ear, but it's not the ear for us. So now that that's out of the way, let's dive right into the structure of things. This is the little cave part of the ear, and you can see it has a little balcony that protects the most sensitive opening to the inner ear, and it also has a little on-ramp so you can drive right down in there. Outside of that, we have the midland planes of the ear, which are generally kind of boring and flat, but they can have some folds here and there. And then rounding out the outer edge, we got that nice little flap of skin that kind of forms a nice little line that will wrap all the way around the ear and just kind of taper off into nothing around the area on the bottom near the earlobe. Of course, we don't always want to spend all of our time rendering all the different details of the ear, so it's important to know our reductions. And these are what give us our personal style. So you can reduce things as much as you want. The more you reduce things, the more you get into a cartoony or comic-y style. So you got to look at what creates the most contrast, what creates the most shadow, and generally it's going to be that outer extremis part of the ear, and maybe the cave, maybe the balcony we talked about. Those can all create very distinct shapes and silhouette and language for us to use when describing our ears. So there's also that little flap in the midlands, which just kind of cuts right through the heart of things, like a little river coming down through those midland plains. But you can see here I'm giving a bunch of different examples of ways you can do the ear. And of course the ear comes in all shapes and sizes, so you don't have to be super exact with any distinct shape. They can be very round, they can be very angular and pointy, and of course some have giant lobes and some might not have any lobes at all. Now that we know the structure of the ear, we just have to figure out where to put them. So one of the most common mistakes I see when it comes to ear placement is that people think they're very vertically up and down, but in fact are usually tilted back a bit. And the easiest way to figure out where this tilt is coming from is actually to follow the upward line of the back of the jawbone, which will usually lead you back on an angle that you can kind of just pin the ear on. Now we just have to figure out how high on the head to put these ears. Well, luckily enough, we have our cheekbones here, which are wonderful guides for positioning your ears. Now, if you feel your face real fast, you'll feel your cheekbones kind of wrap around the back, the side of your head, back into the skull. And those are like little tiny hangers that you can just hang your ears on, like little ornaments on a tree. And you can use these cheekbones as a guide to know that when a head is facing upward, that if you wrap them around, the ears will actually appear a lot lower on the face compared to the other facial features. And if someone's looking downward, the ears will appear much higher on the form. So hopefully that makes things a bit easier for you guys. Now I think it's time for a little fun fact. So did you know that while your eyes actually never grow your entire life, your ears and your nose actually never stop growing? So these become useful tools for showing the age of a character. Of course, this means that if vampires existed and they aged at a normal human rate, they would eventually just turn into giant noses with giant ears on the side. It's terrifying, I know. All right, I think we can take a break from all this line art now to talk a little bit about color. So let me just whip up a quick skin tone for you guys. Remember those color areas of the face? We got our yellow, red, and blue. But anyway, the ears are pretty straightforward. They tend to be a little more, I don't know, pale than the rest of the skin tone, but they tend to catch a lot of red as well, being just fleshy, vulnerable areas. So it's good to pop in a little bit of extra red around the ears, I think. Now, one of my favorite things about ears being made up of just cartilage and thin tissue is that you'll get a lot of subsurface scattering going on. So, of course, if you have a strong backlight, you'll get a lot of light just pouring through the skin and radiating through the ears. And you can demonstrate this by just saturating, lightening a little, but it's mainly the saturation that's going to make something look like it's glowing. So just keep bumping it up until you're at like 100% saturated orangish red, whatever color. Just walk it up in steps. It'll look great, I promise. So I think we've tackled most of the important stuff. Now we just have to congeal the information. And personally, I like to congeal that information by making little animations. So I'm just gonna make a quick ear here and just rotate it in space. Get my mind working in a three-dimensional way. So I keep rotating. I'll just pick a random axis and just rotate it until it just kind of looks fun. I don't know. It makes your brain work in a more critical, analytical way. So that looks pretty fun. Now I'll just do another one with an actual face this time, or a head, so I can just practice my connections as well. Because you'll see the ears on the anterior side are obviously connected to the cheeks, whatever you want to say. And of course, the ears are like flaps of skin, and they can be very pinned back against the skull, or they can just be very wide and out there. So it's kind of fun to just practice those differences. Well, I think that's going to do it for me. So I hope you guys enjoyed learning a little bit more about ears. And of course, thanks to my Patreon supporters for helping make these videos possible. And thanks to all you guys for watching. And if you have any recommendations for the next episode of Anatomy Quick Tips, just post them in the comments below. Whatever gets the most likes will do. As long as it's not butts. We've talked enough about butts.